Welcome to the Lights Out Podcast. This is Chris Lights Out Lytle, and this is our journey to document the history of mixed martial arts. I have brought with me my friend, the MMA detective Mike Davis, and together we will preserve the history and hear some great stories from the world in the era of the no-holds-barred. Thank you and enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have got a 50 Fight Club member, one of the rarest things in the heavyweight division. This gentleman right here, a member of the Midwest out of Wisconsin, Ben Rothwell. What's up, buddy?
What is up?
So
get to it.
So Ben, here, let's start with the plugs. Let's talk about your gym. You're out in Kenosha, Wisconsin. You're breeding a gym full of badasses.
Yeah, we're doing, I'm a very public heavy class because they pay the bills. So I wanted something that, I've been doing this for 25 years. I started when I was 17. I've been to a lot of gyms. And in the come up, in like the 2005 to 2011, till 2011, a lot of gyms, MMA was getting very popular. And gyms were starting to get on, like a fighter gym meant you walked in the door and everybody was going to mean mug you and look at the fresh meat because it was a bunch of fighters and they're going to beat the shit out of you. And either you survived or, you got beat up and sent on your way. Like that was kind of, that was how Miletich's was. Like that's just a fact. And the public suffered, and I don't know. I just think a lot of like fighter owned gyms just didn't think at the time about business and like, how are we going to pay the bills? They just thought about, yeah, we got a bunch of tough guys. We're going to do some fights. We're going to make all this money. And I don't know, but fighter pay isn't exactly, the highlight of MMA fighters. No. And then you get a guy that does make some money like Matt Hughes. And I'm just going to name drop because these are facts. These are some of the history. And Matt Hughes doesn't like, oh, thanks, Pat Miletich. Here's $1 million. Matt Hughes goes, thanks, Pat Miletich. I just opened up my own gym. Peace out. And there was a lot of that. And then Pat was sitting there with his dick in his hands and like, how am I going to pay for this place? And he's not. And he closed doors. And I watched a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, man, I got to make sure I don't make these mistakes. So I opened my gym in 2011 and we're expanding. We're doing well. But I always try to cater. In the beginning, I wanted a fight team like Miletich's. But then I wanted to make sure we were separate from the public. And that was kind of like how I molded things. And then things just changed as I got older. I mellowed out considerably. And my fighters, so to speak, became coaches. And that was like a big deal for me. If you guys want to fight, you got to know how to coach and help people. And then it's just evolved into something where I'm like, literally everybody that walks in the door can be helped. And their lives can be changed with mixed martial arts. And that to me is the most beautiful thing is seeing little kids go from not getting bullied, seeing people that don't have friends, seeing guys lose weight, seeing people come together and help each other and make a community. And that, to me, I feel like is priceless. And that's what we have going on right now.
And why don't we see your gym and where it's at?
Rothwell MMA in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
So, Ben, I've been working for BKFC now for almost 3 years. And I remember seeing you fight at least a dozen times on the independent grind. And you're a very large individual. And seeing how you handle yourself at some of these social events, I don't know if you kind of grew eventually into this, or you've always kind of been this way, but it seems like you're like a magnet for people to communicate and encourage interaction. It's pretty surprising coming from a guy your size.
Well, I appreciate that. And for me, it's from day one. I was a young kid and I was watching some of these guys that were UFC champions and training with these guys and seeing how their interactions with the public were. And I just made up my mind that I wanted to be me. I wasn't going to follow anybody else. And it was always important to me to know, like, why did the UFC ever take off? Why was the fight night with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner such a big deal? How'd that become a big deal? Because a whole bunch of people watched. The fans are why we get the fights. When I figure it's common sense, right? But a lot of people just don't think about it. They don't realize that, these people are making comments and some are good, some are bad, but it's talking about our sport. They could be talking about a different sport. They're talking about the sport. So I embrace everybody, man. And when I go to an event, somebody asks me for a photo, I'm just every single time I just stay humbly surprised and as excited as they are, and that's just the way I do it. And, I love the fans.
Yeah, it's refreshing. It's like in our meetings and stuff like that, whenever it's like an event, like we got the Olympia coming up, your name is always thrown at by not just myself. It's other people that are not from the Midwest and kind of only knew you from BKFC and not from the independent grind. It's because of your personality. You're like, fuck it, I'll drive a car. Yeah, I'll pick up guys from the airport. What do you need? What do you need? And it's nice, man. It's refreshing. It's like you never forgot where you came from.
Oh, the BKFC, it's like I want to take it up another level. I want to be there for the fans. I want to be there for the staff. I think the world of all of you guys. I'm just forever impressed with the team David Feldman has created and what he's doing, what he's pushing to do, and the group of people around him. You're all special and a part of it and making this thing happen. And I want to be a part of it. I'm getting more open about that. At first, I wanted to say, you guys are doing a great job. Now I'm saying, you guys are doing a great job. I want to be a part of it. So
yeah. And you know what, dude? It's those feelers are out there too. We got to figure it out for Big Bad. I will say, like, throughout your career, you have faced adversity and you've handled it pretty well. One of the instances that I recall was your fight with Rico Rodriguez in the IFL, where on two different occasions in that fight, he spit on you.
There was once, notably,
yeah,
you're saying you're going for 2 times.
I thought 2. You know what I mean? I'm going from memory. But even afterward, like you handled yourself like a professional. Like you beat his ass. And
you know what pisses me off about that is he did the last 10 seconds of the fight, and I should have just threw out a head kick because I think it would have landed flush, and that was always a regret of mine that I didn't just pancake that dude for doing that. And just me, I hate decisions. Look on my record. There's not many. Yeah. And that was a decision. That's a shitty, you know what I mean? I go out to finish the fight. And not only did he spit at me, but he also took me to a decision. So you look at a win, and I look at, I have to look at the negatives always. Like, nope, could have been better.
Did he apologize afterward? What was the backstage?
No, he didn't fight. He was a cocksucker. He was mad he didn't win. He wasn't sorry about anything. And I'm known. I've lost to Andre Arlovsky, and I always go back in the corner. Me and Andre shake hands, we bullshit, we talk, and I've knocked people the fuck out like name them. You know what I mean? I was just about to say Alistair Overeem. And that's probably one funny one where things, it's not to the level of Rico Rodriguez, but there was always that, like, he wasn't happy and stuff like that. But there's guys like Josh Barnett. Okay, I'm the only guy to ever submit Josh Barnett. It was probably. I've lost fights. It sucked. And I'm, being in Josh Barnett's shoes, you lose somebody you're probably supposed to beat. You got all this against you. And you know what? By the time we got to the back room, Josh is nothing but a stand-up gentleman. And what a guy. He knows I've always looked up to him. And we had great words. You know what I mean? And I kind of always looked up to him like an older brother. And, we had a very good, cool conversation after. So I try to have that respect and humbleness with my opponents, good or bad.
So your first fight was at the age of 17. How old were you when you first stepped into a mixed martial arts gym?
17.
And what was the turnaround time before your first fight, your first day of practice?
6 weeks.
You stepped into Dave Strasser's gym.
And it's noted on, you can look it up as worst MMA fight ever, Ben Rothwell. You type that in, and you'll see me beat up this 19-year-old kid who shouldn't be in there. But I fought immediately after that against a 31-year-old that had just beat up that guy's buddy. So I actually fought in 6 weeks of training 2 times, and the second fight was against a 31-year-old man when I was 17.
All right. So June 25th, 1999, it's an amateur 4-man tournament. Brad Kohler is the promoter.
That's right. Well, Brad Kohler and Monte Cox.
Right. Monte
Brad
kept
Kohler.
him honest. But Brad Brad certainly he made a name for himself as a promoter. Can we agree on that?
Sure. I mean, he's the promoter, and he was the main event against Dan Severnich.
Right. He's also the famous promoter that faked a heart attack to take his own ambulance out of an event so he wouldn't have to pay everybody.
There you go.
He's also sent me a few text messages saying he was going to punch me in the eye because every time we clip something like this out, we always like tag his actual phone number on it. So like it comes up. So this is another one for Brad Kohler. So you fight this 19-year-old kid, Nick Bartlett. And I mean, you're a senior in high school. I think we can describe him as like more round and wide than he is tall. And he had like a shirt on. And like your reaction in the fight was like you kindly beat him up. Like you didn't like drop the hammer of the gods, walk around like, you just like, finished a triathlon in record time. Like you were genuinely concerned for his well-being after punching him in the head.
It was an interesting fight, yeah. Because I like pummel him, but then I was like checking on him. You know what I mean?
Right. And like, if you want to know who, you gotta remember, like senior year of high school, we're not our most mature. Like our best selves doesn't happen when you're 16 or 17 years old. In fact, it's probably just the opposite. And like, if you want to know like what kind of human being Ben Rothwell is, you guys, it's got like 1 million views. You got to see this fight. It's amazing.
I don't know about amazing, but you might crack a laugh.
There's about 3,000 comments on it. And people are like, and you can see like the years when people were commenting. Like, one's in Dutch. I had to hit translate. Oh my God, this is the guy that fought Alistair. You know what I mean? It's like there's historical notes inside the comment section that are incredible. It's really good, dude. I'm sorry. It's my favorite fight of yours. I'm sorry.
All the fights, the worst one's the favorite.
It's the best.
You're a sick fuck.
So what happens? You go there. There's no weigh-ins. You're a senior in high school, so you got your football coach probably pissed because you're not on a team. You got your basketball coach pissed because you're not on a team, and you're driving up to Minnesota as an underage child.
Cleveland, Ohio.
It was Cleveland. Ooh, okay.
I'm from Kenosha, and our coach at the time sent me and a guy named Kai Hansen. Kai had just started almost the same time. So we had 6 weeks of training. I'm 17 years old in high school. And Kai Hansen's 20. Just got out of it, you know what I mean? Just kind of doing his thing. And he wants to do the fight. He's excited. And the coach goes to me, goes, "What, are you going to let him go by himself?" And I'm like, "No, I guess I'm going to go too." So Dave Strasser, fucking criminal fuck, yeah, he called up Monte Cox and Brad Kohler. He's like, "Yeah, I'm sending you 2 guys." So they had a heads up we were coming, but I don't think, we went by ourselves. So let everybody know that too. That my coach, he didn't fucking go with either. He sent me and a 20-year-old by ourselves
across state lines.
Yeah, across state lines. And mind you, Monte Cox was like, "How old are you?" And I'm like, "I'm 18 and I'm 17. And he's like, "Well, you got to fill this out." They had a social security number. And I just totally made up a fucking bullshit number.
And really got me.
Yeah, Monty didn't check shit. So I fought illegally at 17 years old.
I have to assume the conversation with your parents went really well.
Yeah, there was no mention of a fight at all.
No, until after.
I was going with my buddy to a buddy's house.
Yeah. Your first road trip, too. You know, I mean, you've never really had a road trip at that
Not
age.
To go fight another human being in a cage, no.
That's like, all right, there's certain benchmarks that we have. 50 Fight Club. Dude, you're a 50 Fight Club member? That means a lot on this show. But then there's like certain boxes you gotta check. This is 2. Like you fought in a tournament and like it's illegal and you're underage. It's fantastic. It's like you're showing your little veteran prowess.
I have some personal ones on this too. Do you know why the first kid did it? Why him and his buddy signed up for it? The promotion the night in Cleveland, Ohio, is called Ultimate Wrestling. That's what they had to name it because Ohio hadn't fully legalized MMA. And there's more. When it hit the ground and you were on the ground, you were only allowed to do open hand strikes. So in the second fight, I fight the 31-year-old that smashed the other kid in 20 seconds or something like that.
Pete Dellmutti, Mutti. Go ahead.
So we're a couple minutes. This guy's obviously tougher. He's a man. And we have a couple minutes on the feet scrapping. And then I more or less get a takedown of some sort. And I immediately get the mount. And now this guy is completely clueless of jiu-jitsu or the ground at the time. So he's not getting out of the mount. But I'm 17 years old. I got the mount. I'm scared to death. And I ended up knocking the dude out with an open hand strike. So for me, that's another like box check, a personal one. Is like I knocked someone out literally with an open hand strike. Dude, who does that?
Power slap. You were doing power slap before it was cool, right?
I busted him right in the nose, man. KO'd him. KO'd someone while I had him mounted.
That was each of your opponent's last fights, I might add. I mean, the 17-year-old.
I retired some people on my way.
You have. I've got it all documented. You've about 70% of your opponents. You can tell you really hit hard because it's their last fight and it's KO.
Well, that's some interesting shit.
Yeah, so you and Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey's actually got probably the highest percentage on the independent grind of retiring people. I think his is like 90%, including Pat O'Malley.
Me and Sam should fight in karate combat next.
He's definitely heavyweight.
Me and Sam, let's set it up. Next one. I'll get an okay from BKFC. They'll let me do a one-fight deal.
Yeah. So you win that amateur tournament. Did he give you like a belt or any money or a trophy?
No. This is Monte Cox and Brad Kohler, man. And Brad got thrown out of the ring that night by Dan Severn, and he had to leave on a stretcher because he split his head open.
I'm sure it wasn't a work.
It was a complete fucking work. 100%. They didn't throw a single punch at each other.
Yeah. There was a guy in Southern Illinois. He was a promoter and MMA fighter. And Severn offered him 10 grand to come and drop a fight to him. At least that's what I had heard. And he never took him up on it. But Severn, for 10 G's, he'd let you beat him up at a backyard barbecue. Yeah, if you had it. Shortly thereafter, you actually fought for Dan Severn, May 20th, 2000, another 4-man amateur tournament. So you're like in May, from June to May. Mike Hall is your first opponent. You knock him out.
Who's a large man, decently in shape, probably 265 pounds, 6'4", got his gigantic brother with him. And they see me at weigh-ins. They watch me weigh in. We walk out to the parking lot, and him and his brother go. His brother yells. He goes, "You're gonna lose!" And that was the last time I'd seen them until I got into the cage with them that night. The next night,
you knocked him out in the first round.
What's the time?
It's quick. Tyson, I need the time on that one. You knock him out in the first round. His last fight, I might add. And then Ron
this isn't just a knockout. They brought the stretcher in, right? We made some noise this night because we're in some part of Indiana, and they sent a guy to do a report, and he just was appalled. And my 2 fights specifically made this guy lose his mind. So the first fight, I level Mike Hall, and he's leveled, and like they bring in all the refs, doctor, stretcher. Yeah, I ended him.
265. Tyson, go ahead.
17 seconds.
So you're
17 seconds.
So a 265-pound guy going out on a stretcher, it takes like 6 people to move that human being.
Yeah, you know I'm still in high school, mind you, because I was in my first 2 fights was the summer I was going into my senior year.
You're only a junior in high school at this point?
At 17, yeah, the first 2 fights. Now the next 2 fights, I'm a senior. I'm finishing my senior year of high school. So this guy got knocked out by a high school kid.
Oh my God.
And then the guys at the place told him and Ron Faircloth, and they thought both of them were going to commit suicide that night.
So was Faircloth your teammate at this point?
No, he's my 4th fight. He's there to wreck shop.
Who was he? Was he with Mike Delaney? What team was he with at this
He
point?
came with Pat O'Malley, and they were just renegades on their own. And they showed up, and they were rough. And I'm a kid.
Okay.
And Ron walks by with concrete falling off his boots, steroided out of his mind, just scary as could be. And my guy that I brought with, Ryan Rafferty, goes, I hope nobody has to fight that guy. With like the most sincere and scared face. We're both like 18 years old. And I look at him and I'm shaking my head. I'm like, he's in the fucking tournament, right? And Rafferty's like this, like. So that's what I'm going into. But I have to fight Mike Hall first. So I beat Mike Hall, and then Ron Faircloth is my reward. Can I tell you what happened to Ron Faircloth's first opponent?
The blunt instrument, Ron Faircloth.
No, he had a heart attack, and they said it, but they took him on a stretcher, and he actually left in an ambulance. Just the thought of having to fight Ron. That's how fucking scary Ron was that night.
So just so everyone can kind of understand, Pat O'Malley, I think we can both agree. I haven't spoken to Pat in the better part of a decade, but I still consider him a friend. Like, he's an off-the-grid type guy. I had to corner Pat one time. I was with my ex-wife at the time, and Pat called me up. Hey, I'm fighting in Milwaukee. I need you to bring your gun. I got an issue up here. And it was because Pat went to jail for murder and did 10 years, and he never told on anybody. And it's like they were waiting for him. Like the victim's family was up there. Like, he literally went from the cage, walked him out the back door. He had a car waiting for him, and he just left. Pat O'Malley is the real deal.
Yeah, I'll just get real quick. So my 4th fight in this tournament then is going to be my 2nd fight. Is Ron Faircloth and him and Pat O'Malley. So real quick, I'll get to the fight, but I beat Ron. Because of that, they ended up connecting with me and Dave Strasser.
Yep.
And they become my teammates. And I'll say this to this day. At that time, there is nobody outside of my brother I would rather be in a street fight with than those two.
Yeah.
Because we would have fucking level. I don't care whoever the best fighters were at the time. They might do good in the cage with refs, but out in the street, we were going to fucking end you.
So Ron Faircloth made a brief UFC appearance, tore both his shoulders, falling out of the UFC ring while practicing, prior to the event. And he had an ability to take punches like nobody else. Addiction got him, unfortunately. I think he died in Miami, Florida, like on a shrimp boat. Yeah. So
but for about 5 years, we were really close, and they were with me. So basically, after this fight, they're with me through all the way till Carlos Barreto in Brazil. So you can look on that. All the fights up to that point was with Ron and Pat in my corner.
And two of the most genuine human beings you're ever going to run into.
We were tight, man. Those are my guys.
Yeah. On January 6, 2001, you also fought Robert Schinkel on a freestyle combat challenge, and Dave Strasser at his events in Racine, Wisconsin, the Memorial Hall. It was Pride rules with headbutts at this time. So you fought under the headbutt rule set.
They forgot to tell me I could do that. Yeah, there was no headbutts because Strasser was so worried about, even though it was pretty renegade and rogue back then, he still didn't want to deal with doctors having to do with cuts and stuff. So I'm pretty sure he said no head. Maybe other places were allowing it, but he said no headbutts. The only thing that I was allowed to do was knees to the head on the ground.
Yeah, soccer kicks too. Soccer kicks to the head.
And I got to do that. That was part of that's when my fighting style changed as the years went on. But up until, like I said, right, what is it, about 2000,
It's 2001.
2003. And my last fight with Barreto was the last time they could knee the head on the ground. But I was all about taking guys down, using wrestling. Like I was more. That's why I beat a lot of guys then, because heavyweights did not learn jiu-jitsu when I started, and I had a huge advantage over them. So if I couldn't knock you out, then taking you on the ground and beating you on the ground was just like a sure win for me.
Were you training with Damian Decora at this time as well? It's the one name on your record I'm shocked that I didn't see.
Yeah, he because I think because of his relationship with Pat and Ron, I think, because they helped him too. I think they just avoided us from ever fighting. It got close a couple times on a Strasser show, but I don't think Damian ever was looking to fight me.
No, he was a solid individual as well. So Robert Schinkel, his last fight as well. I mean, the only one that has fought another time after this was Ron Faircloth.
Because he's a different breed.
He's not even the same. I remember
the fight, that reporter wrote this grotesque of what he witnessed because Ron made me rape choke him after I got him mounted and beat on him with elbows and punches for like 3 minutes. His face was pumpkin, just bloody and pumpkin, and he literally made me do a two-handed rape choke to get him to finish, to tap out.
Yeah, Ron ain't gonna tap. He wouldn't tap. Other than that, I mean, you can.
That was all said. He told all of us, he was just like, I mean, his face was purple, and he accepted that it was okay. It was a one-sided fight, okay?
Yeah, interesting guy, man. Yeah, I miss Ron. You also, as a pro, so I mean, now that was your first pro fight. Your second pro fight is also a 4-man tournament. You weren't afraid to get in a tournament at that time.
There wasn't anything about afraid. That's the way it was. Like, that's the only fights I got offered. That's the only fights that we even knew about. Outside of fighting on Strasser show, tournaments was just, that's what you do. Now today, these guys don't even have any, they have no idea. Like, it's not even a thought. Like, they couldn't even imagine. They get done with one fight and it's grueling. They're ready to go party. Like, no. 20 minutes, you're going to go fight a dude that's even better.
Yeah. Get that adrenaline dump out of you. Yep. Go get your legs back. You beat Anthony Ferguson by KO. I remember he went by the wild card. He's from Ohio. And Darian Block. That was his last fight as well. You knocked him out.
Yep, that's when Pedro Hizo was the man. I mean, Randy Couture got a decision, but Pedro Hizo was like a world ender. And I mean, he was a scary human being to even think about fighting. And he was knocking guys out. His leg kicks were unreal. And that was that was the 17-second knockout too. And I hit the guy, and I dropped my hand. I turn around, and Pat O'Malley goes, "Ben, what?" And then because I had turned around and the guy fell like a tree, I turned around before he'd hit the ground because I knew he was knocked out. So I thought I was the fucking man. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want to like put it on it, but inside I thought I was like Pedro Hizo. I was like, I was the man because that was so cool, right?
Pedro Hizo, in my opinion, is the greatest fighter never to win a world title.
Oh, man, he was incredible at that period of time.
Yeah.
There was one guy that, I mean, I was, I'll fight anybody. And they're like, you're going to fight Pedro Hizo. I would rather have fought Randy Couture at that time, who was, those were like the two best guys. I would rather fought Randy because I'm like, I'm going to get taken down, get pummeled and beat on, better than getting hit by Pedro Hizo, man. Because Pedro Hizo might break your femur, your leg might just literally snap off, and he could crush your skull. Like, the guy was a scary human being at the time.
Yeah, there's more than one fighter that say there's like an indentation on their leg that Pedro gave to them that was not there prior to their fight.
And I believe, that's a fact. I'm shaking my head at how much that might have hurt. Like,
yeah,
you're living with that. You fought Pedro Hizo, and he gave you a lifetime. Right. I wanted to be like that. That's who I wanted to be, right? You
Yeah.
fight Ben Rothwell, and I'm giving you a lifetime reminder.
All right. So you fought as a pro, 4-man tournament. Dan Sevener's the promoter. I have to assume it's huge prize money for that tournament win.
I came there with no money, and Becky Levi and Dan Severn were the promoters. And they go, it's 40 bucks.
Stand up individuals. Don't you besmirch them.
They go, it's 40 bucks to enter. And I go, I don't have any money. And they go, well, you better not lose then. You're going to owe us. And I went, okay. And I ended up winning and got, I guess, some money. It was like 20, 30, whatever, because I had to take my 40 out. But they made each of us pay $40. And then the winner got some of it.
Okay, so
how fucking stupid that is.
Would you like 260, 300, for that?
The money?
How much money did you want to get for that format?
No, they took the 40 because they gave the second place something a little bit, and he was laughing that he got more money than I got, and they gave me like $20, dude. Like, yeah, no, it was no hundreds. I would have been back then. I would have been fucking like I won the lottery for a couple $100. No, I got like $20, and I laughed because I didn't lose money.
Wait a minute. So it was whatever everybody paid to get into the tournament.
$40 each to enter.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you had to pay to fight, and the winners got some of that money. And they did all the weight classes like that.
So it was $160 pot minus your 40 because you never had it. It's like $120 pot.
Yep.
Oh my God, dude! Dan Severn.
People don't know, man, the shit that we went through back then.
And like Dan Severn, it's amazing. Like he's done this so many times. Fake fights, weird business associates that are now registered offenders. Like he's just such a. There's so many black clouds around him. It's amazing that he can walk around MMA circles just unimpugned. It's wild. Yeah, and then did he charge you $10 for a picture?
Well, he was there charging people for photos, yes.
Yeah.
And that was one of my fuck that. I am never gonna be like that.
Yeah. Everyone's experienced it.
This was honest to God. I was, not. I'm sure John Jones and High Level Dude people would pay all day, but like I've had a few times throughout where people were trying to pay, and I'm just like, no fucking way. Or I would make a joke about it, and then they'd pull their wallet out, and I'm like, no, man, I'm kidding. But not too long ago, a guy from Canada sent me. He wanted me to sign some cards for him, which I get. I'm humbly like I'm still in disbelief how many people still send me collectors to sign their cards and stuff.
Cool.
He put $20 in there. He's just like, I know, but thank you for your time. And I say, yeah, I sent that shit back. But fucking cool. Like and that's the fan. There is some good people out there.
He lets you drink. He bought you a drink at the bar.
Whatever. Fucking nice of him. You didn't have to. I keep them all too, and I have fucking hundreds and thousands of letters that people have sent me over the last decade, and I love them all. I always wanted to make like a cool memorial out of them or something someday, or something to show my kid. But that was the first guy just sent $20, and I was like, oh, that's freaking pretty cool.
That's actually really cool. You also fought for Chad Bergmier, August 11, 2001. Chad is.
Oh, you mentioned Chad Bergmier.
Yeah.
Do you think I even met the promoters half the time? I knew Dan and Becky Levi were the promoters because they were advertising that. They made themselves the poster,
Right.
And they had a dick fuck amateurs underneath. This was their show. Come make the, But like Chad Bergmier, he stayed, dude. He even if you were an amateur, you didn't even fucking see him. And if you were a pro, it was a handshake and a check. Get the fuck out of his face. Not, it's just Chad's a businessman, and it's just like that's a lot of how the promoters were.
Yeah, he was. He's actually the head of the Iowa Commission right now.
Yeah, I mean, think all the years of experience he has, and how much that guy's seen, how many stories he has.
Yeah, yeah. August 24, 2001. Extreme Challenge. You fight a future teammate and consistent sparring partner, Tim Sylvia.
So I went into that fight thinking I'm 8-0, even though you look at it, it's like an amateur, it says I'm 3-0. See, when you're 20 years, no, how old am I? What year is that again?
This is 2001.
Yeah, I had turned, my birthday's in October. I'm 19 at the time. Yeah, 19. I'm 19 at the time. And I'm fighting 26-year-old Tim Sylvia, man, 6'9", goes on to be UFC champion. I show up for $300 from Monte Cox. This is Monte Cox show at Stars and Stripe in the Quad Cities of Iowa. Hey, real quick, where do you think Tim trained in MFS was located?
I have in Davenport, yeah.
The Quad Cities of Iowa. Yeah, that's right. That's where Stars and Stripes was. That's where Militich's gym was literally a stone throw away. It was like 2 miles away. The 3 judges. Do you ever heard of Andre Roberts?
The Chief Andre from the Meskwaki Indian tribe.
And where did he train?
Militich.
And he was one of the judges that night. So just there you go. Who set all this up and who got me $300 though? Here, this is why I didn't want to say the motherfucker's name and fuck him. And like, I'll tell him today. I've been well over a decade since I've seen him. I tell him today, I'm like, dude, I was a child. I needed your guidance. I need you to help me. And he has a lot to do with why I'm trying to help the kids now and why I have my gym in the city. And I'd be like, you fucking failed. Who do you think set this all up?
It's got to be Dave Strasser.
Dave Strasser, my manager, mentor, trainer, got me $300 to go to the Quad Cities to fight Tim Sylvia in the Quad Cities, who trains at Militich's. And at the time, Militich's the gym. Not just in the area. I'm talking the UFC, Matt Hughes, Jens Pulver, champions. Yeah, that's the gym that I'm fighting against. And I'm 8-0 in my mind. I'm a heavyweight with 8 finishes, right? Didn't we just go over 8 finishes? And I get sent for 300. Yeah, I get sent for $300 to fight Tim Sylvia. What does 19-year-old Ben Rothwell do? I fight him fucking 3 rounds, and I lose the decision.
So Tim Sylvia at the time was 3-0. So that's a legit high-end fight based on both of your records. How did you think that you may have won the fight, or did you think that Tim rightfully got the decision?
I needed a finish, just like this is how it is. But you want to know what the biggest impact of this entire fucking thing was like? I didn't think anything for the fight. Tim was just another guy. I was going to beat him. I didn't give a shit about the money. I didn't care about none. At the time, there was no sponsorships. There was none of that. I'm going to Iowa. I'm driving 3 hours, and I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat another fucking guy. That's how I thought. Do you want to know when that all changed? After the fight, Monte Cox sitting in the booth and Stars and Stripes to pay me, and he chuckles, and he gives me the money. And it wasn't 300. I think it was 250. I was fighting for 500. And he goes, you better count it. And that's all he said, but it was a laugh, and I knew exactly what he was saying. And it was just like all hit me, where it was like he's laughing about 250 because he just got done paying some other guys a couple thousand, that weren't even on, me and Tim were like the co-main event. And he'd pay these other dudes that weren't even co-main event more money. And I'm getting $250 laughed at, told to count it because he had a pile of money in his hand. It was like, yeah, I got fucked. 19 years old. I'm just like, I was 8-0. I did the best I could, and that's what I got led to. So, not to tell sad shit, but when you bring it out and you make me talk about it, because I don't think I've ever really told the story or talked about it before. And when it comes out, it's like, yeah, man, that was. I don't ever want that to happen to anybody else.
It's. I get torn because you just fought a 4-man tournament for, maybe $100 that you had to pay to get in. But Monty's a little different. Like Monty, he was so dug in all over the country, like to where he understood what like real talent looked like and what it was, to where by the time everybody else kind of understood what the sport was in 2001, 2002, way before the Ultimate Fighter season 1, Monty had already had like a chain of restaurants. It's he had McDonald's already. every corner. You want to get to the big show, you got to come through here. Some of the UFCs, he
Monty
had
was
6
the
and
man
7
as a
guys on.
promoter at the time, is what you're trying to say.
Man, dude,
He was.
he belongs in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he was. Like, he was the, and when it comes to, like, you talk about managers at that time, Monty was the man. And I didn't know anything, and I was fighting against, he actually didn't want Tim back then either. I guess Tim had his own rough upbringing of how he started there and the shit that he had to go through to get to where he was going. But once Monty finally took him on, then it was off to the races. Monty had guys in the UFC, lots of them, lots of guys in the UFC, champions.
Yeah, Tim was bouncing out in Maine. The Irish hand grenade, Marcus Davis, is the one that forced him to do MMA and actually kind of pushed him over to Miletich from that East Coast. Yeah, wow. You also fought for Bob Long and Phil Johns, November 10, 2001 Silverbacks Classic. Steve Hutson, another guy that never fought again.
We needed a photo of that guy. He was another 6'4", 265-pound guy, but this guy looked like, the Hulk. He was an impressive specimen of a looking guy. He looked, he was the super macho man. He's like, he did the flexing, was getting in the cage, and his girlfriend was sitting ringside, and we were the main event, amateurs. It was an amateur show for him, but like, that was the fight. The whole place was just like oohed and awed when this guy took his shirt off, and I'm just a stupid 19-year-old kid that just got beat by, Tim Sylvia.
Future world champion.
They think like this is a 1-minute smashing from the other guy. But that didn't happen, did it?
No, triangle choke. And let me, I got to put this, I try not to rewind a little bit, but let me put Ben's career in a proper context. When he fought Bill Billington for Chad Bergmier, that was August 11th. August 24th, he fights Tim Sylvia. So he's heavyweights, generally speaking, they take on more damage, need more time to heal. For some reason, Ben, like there's not many 50 Fight Club members that are heavyweights, like Jeff Monson, Rico Rodriguez, just to name a few. But the 50 Fight Club members are usually about 155, 170, 185. To where, I mean, you're very rarely seen in the heavyweights, especially with a non-wrestler, with a striker like yourself. Kind of an anomaly.
My blood, man.
Yeah, Steve Hudson, triangle choke. I kind of showed everybody you had some jits. It's November 10th, January 5th, 2002. Freestyle Combat Challenge again. Michael Marshalleck, all the way from Canada. You knocked him out.
Yeah, he got pummeled. That's the first time my mom watched me fight live. That's the first time she watched me fight anything. Like, there was no TV. You know what I mean? So it was either see somebody fight live or not. Because I wasn't in the UFC yet. And that was the first time my mom saw me fight. It was an emotional day for her.
Was it difficult for you having her in the audience?
No, I didn't think about anything, man. Like that's why I fought so much. I just block out the nonsense, and I was born for it at the time. It's like, imagine if we were in today's setting and I got to be 22, what would it be like? Man, crazy. It was just different. That's the time I was born. And the fights, you know what I mean? As you keep going in the years here, you see there's 1 year, not a calendar year, but just in a 1 year period, I fight 11 times.
Yep.
And then, of course, during the IFL, it's 9 fights in a 1 year period of time. April to April, it's like 9 fights.
That's a lot of miles for a heavyweight. Like, it really is.
I don't know, but anyway, like 6 fights is like the thing, right? Like that's kind of what I hear now. It's like somebody
that's a lot.
6 fights in 1 year.
That's a lot.
And I did 11.
Yeah. February 10th, you do another 4-man tournament. Extreme Challenge 46. You're back with Monte Cox right now. This is like, in my opinion, like it wasn't. There's some flaws, but in the way the tournament was ran. But one of the biggest tournaments in the history of our country, was at Superbrawl, and this is the beginning. Like this is like the tryout to get there. And Kerry Shaw is your first opponent.
Yeah, now at this point in time, I have what? 6 wins. I have 3 tournaments. 6 wins so far at tournament fighting. So I'm coming into this a little bit of experience, maybe more experience than those guys even knew.
Yeah, on paper you're 7-1, including your amateur. But like this tournament's no joke. Kerry Shaw, meat truck out of Cincinnati, Ohio, George Gurgel student. Josh Rafferty, a lot of good. Rich Franklin, Neil Rowe. I mean, he's from a very storied gym. Matt Brown wasn't even accepted as one of them at the time. Like Matt Brown had to leave the gym to make his own name. Yeah, Kerry claimed to have a foot injury in that fight.
He got pummeled. It's a good fight. I have it on VHS somewhere. I was just talking to my wife about a lot of these fights. I still have footage of them. And Kerry had to fight first, and my opponent backed out. So that was like a big thing. And Monty made comments about that, and he was like, talk shit on the Steve Jordan. I think was the guy that was supposed to. I don't remember. Don't quote me, but it was something like that. And Kerry fought. And Kerry ends up beating his guy, but Kerry did have a fight, and I didn't, so I got to buy. And then I come in fresh, and it was at the time I told you that I had an advantage over a lot of heavyweights because I was willing to wrestle and had jiu-jitsu. Kerry was like an older version of a guy that was willing to do that, and he had been beating a lot of heavyweights. He was the big name. He's probably the biggest name on the card that night. He was the number 1 seed. And there's some big dude. Mike Radnoff was a monstrous looking athletic guy. He's easily number 2. Travis View is new, but Travis View is like a big deal coming up. He was looked, because he looked so impressive and stuff. And like I didn't have the look of those guys. I just looked like some sloppy, freaking stupid kid. And people were like, whatever. And then I could put up a fight. So me and Kerry exchanged a lot of positions. He took me down, I'd get up. I'd take him down, we'd get up. And there was a whole bunch of that with heavyweights. And honestly, by the second round, I finally got the final reversal where I really got on top of Kerry. And I was like in really good position. And he tapped out. And, of course you say a foot injury. But it's like, there was more than that.
Well, Kerry, like, here, at the end of the first, you hit Kerry with several shots when Kerry was pinned in the corner. And in the second round, Kerry was in trouble, but then rallied. And, like, he showed some, like, resilience. And then when he shot a double leg, they went through the ropes, and Kerry landed on a chair, and he lost consciousness.
You're talking about the second time we fought. Yeah, man, you I thought we were talking about the original tournament.
I may have got my notes confused up, so I'm apologizing. It's 100% my fault.
You better. So yeah, we were talking about the tournament to get into the
let's do that. Stay on that.
Superbrawl tournament.
My notes
you moved on to the 16-man tournament.
My fault. Stay on that. Let's stay on that then. So in that you eliminate Kerry Shaw. And dude, you mentioned Travis View. Let's talk about how he beat. He beat Keith Jardine in like 10 seconds.
Yeah. With it was just like a 1-2, just
smoked Keith Jardine and Jackson. Greg Jackson's actually in his corner. It's like Jackson Ryu Jitsu. So like Greg Jackson, who he's an anomaly. He's never fought MMA. He's never done a jiu-jitsu match, at least none that I could find. But he has his own system that, man, it's like 1 in a million. He was a video game clerk that invented a mixed martial arts system that has produced world champions. Like it's bizarre. He was there. He was there then. So he beat Kerry Shaw. Mike Radnoff. Mike Radnoff is a stud wrestler. He's got all the steroids in him.
There was absolutely zero testing at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, Big Papa Schnocky's handling the ring card girls. Dude,
oh, boy.
Man. Schnocky's the man.
I haven't seen him in a long time, but he was a character.
Yeah, he passed over a decade ago.
Oh.
Yeah, diabetes. You're back at with Strasser's event March 23rd, 2002. So that's February 16th. You fight in a 4-man tournament. You beat both those guys. Mike Priest, you fight him, you knock him out. That's his last fight. That's how you know you hit fucking hard, dude. I mean, it really is. Like you change the direction of people's lives. Like, maybe this isn't for me.
It's a good gift to give sometimes.
Yeah, you know what? There's no faking it. No. You will not do this again after we fight. You're welcome. Go spend time with your family. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Superbrawl 24, April 26, 2002. This, in my opinion, is the greatest heavyweight tournament on UFC.
Yeah, this is the one that comes to the 16-man tournament.
Ever. Greatest tournament
real
ever.
Quick, this is the most craziest shit, and it's never been done before, but I was going to tell them real quick we get into the fights. We're set up, 16 of us. We're going to get down to 8 on Saturday by fighting on Friday. So you're going to fight Friday. Do you get in the tournament? And it could be against, this is all stud dudes, right? And I'm put up against purposely. Monte Cox said this, not on record, but afterwards. He purposely picked my opponent because he thought the guy would at least throw his hands and really mess me up. Even though they thought I might win, they thought he was just going to give me a struggle because it was only 2 5-minute rounds. 2 5-minute rounds. So we got a bunch of our records are adjusted because of 2 5-minute rounds. But then the tournament starts again on Saturday. So I mean, that's crazy. Everything we talked about prior to this is you show up Saturday night, you fight, you're done. No. This is the flies to Hawaii. I'm going to fight Friday night. I'm going to fight Saturday night. Oh, and on Saturday night, if I want to win, I have to win 3 times. I have to fight 3 fucking times on Saturday night after fighting Friday night. So, yeah, you're fucking – and I did that shit.
All right, so you fight Friday.
Beat the guy, take him down, and this is what I told you about. I took him down, and I forearm choked him. And then I got up and did that to the crowd because – I literally tapped him out by getting crossbody, and I put my forearm in his throat, and he tapped. I mean, I was going to mount him. I was going to do this, going to do that. No, he tapped out and forearm choked. And Monte Cox was pissed because that backfired. They give Kerry Shaw gets a bye. So you see how this is going? Ben got a bye unexpectedly in the Iowa tournament, and now Kerry Shaw gets a bye. And I'm like, okay, guess what? I see it. I don't give a fuck. I'm like, I'm going to beat everybody. So they put Kerry Shaw in there. That's a rematch. Kerry gets to come in fresh. I just fought a dude that was supposed to chop up my face, give me some problems. I forearm choked, and the shit's on. And Tim Sylvia, who we talked about prior to me losing it, he's in the tournament. And he's got a sure win to the final. His 3 opponents is going to take him out. And then we move on to the tournament.
In my opinion, physically speaking, this may have been the peak of Tim Sylvia in terms of how he fought. Like he looked just on. So you beat Chris Curtis, who was a 1-1 kickboxer out of Team Quest. You're 21. You're 8-1. You got Strasser and Nick Aguilar, another UFC vet. Wisconsin is incredibly, I hate to use the word underappreciated, but it is. The amount of talent that's come out of the state of Wisconsin, especially with the small populace, pound for pound, I'll put it up against any other state in terms of homegrown talent.
Who else? Do you know who else was with me at the tournament?
I think it was Faircloth may have been
He
there.
was with me. He flew with me. Strasser and Nick Aguilar were doing on their own mission. They stopped in Hawaii to go to Japan. They had like their own thing. Me and Ron went to the airport, and he was with me. Because we had our own shit that went down. He ends up getting staph in his leg and was laid out in a bed. Like he was gonna die, right after the tournament. All sorts of shit went on this trip. Yeah, Strasser and Nick showed up to basically just Saturday to corner, and they left. They were there for Friday night, Saturday night, and left. So I'm in this tournament, and the Saturday night was like the big night, and I'd go against Kerry Shaw, and that's when Kerry went out the ropes. This is why you don't do MMA in a ropes, okay, everybody? Do it in a cage. Because Kerry Shaw tried to stop my takedown, and he squatted, and his butt went right through the ropes, and he went through like a slippery noodle, it felt like. Because he was there, and then he was gone. And then I'm like, where'd he go? Because the apron was really long, and it went way down. And I'm like, where'd he go? And I look over, and I'm like this, about to look down, and he's in the chair like this. His eyes are open, and he's just not moving. And it's the chair underneath him is crumpled. And I thought he died. I thought I killed him.
Dude,
I was like,
it looks serious.
I'm just sitting there on the ropes looking at him like, oh my God, what the fuck? You know, and I get up, and he doesn't move for like, I stand up, I walk around, and he still doesn't move. And they like bring people out. You know, stretcher, everything. And he doesn't move that whole time, and obviously find out that he's okay. But now, I'm not going to lie, that fucked with me a little bit. I shouldn't have let it. Shouldn't matter, right? But I'm 20 years old, fucking learning about life. It fucked with me.
I can see that. Yeah, no, I mean, if you watch it, I mean, the camera angles, even with like really bad camera angles, dude, it's a serious fall. Like you can tell, like, oh man, that's not one of those ha falls. This is like one of those, oh, this is serious.
Yeah, I was fucked up.
Yeah.
And it was just like that could have happened to anybody. It was just like Kerry got fucked. And we shouldn't have been fighting some stupid ass ropes like that. I mean, it was just bad for the athletes.
You fought Mike Whitehead right after that.
Yep, he came in on a bye, and he wins a 2-round, 2-5. This is why I'm bitching about the 2 rounds, because it was a 2-round fight. He gets a decision. He was probably one of the better wrestlers there, even though there were some good wrestlers, but those guys didn't fight. Whitehead actually, of the guys that actually fought, Whitehead was known for his wrestling, like Washington State, fucking, you know, he was pretty good. And he was taking me down, controlling me. BJ Penn got in his corner. So I always fucking talk shit to BJ Penn after for that. And you know, I lost the decision, but the most fucked part about it is 10 seconds left. He drops for a takedown, and I knee him right in the face, right in the nose. It's spider web, goes across his forehead. Like, he even tells the story. He's like, I was knocked out, fell into your legs, and then the fight's over. And he gets, you know, he wins his decision, but he's like, dude, I was knocked the fuck out. And it's just like, for me, it's like, if there's another round, this fight's easily over. And he wins the decision, but he's like, literally, all Tim had to do was fucking touch me. And and he quit. And then, so he does. Tim made it to the finals, like I said, and Whitehead's the final of the fight. And the fight's over in like a minute or less. Like, it was pathetic. Like, Tim literally jabbed him, and he quit. Fell through the ropes, quitting.
Mike Whitehead is a training partner. Did you ever watch him get in a fist fight with Tony Fryklund?
That's coveted intel. Who told you that? So that's my way of saying maybe it happened.
You know what's crazy? It's like we have people on. I mean, you're like our 240th episode. It's something crazy. So what happens is after we interview people, all their friends like get a hold of me and rat out like, "Oh no, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this." So I'm like, "All right, well, who was there? Who was there?" And then I put those questions underneath like the following, like when I get the other people. Okay. So Mike Whitehead, obviously fantastic athlete, that of himself. So that's April 26th. Like that's a hell of, I mean, that is a difficult tournament, heavyweights. In September, you're in Massachusetts. You fight Johnathon Ivy. He literally said, Ben is like a giant wall. And when he was on top of me, I actually got scared. He's like, I've been scared like 2 times in my life.
Who did I fight before Johnathon Ivy?
I got Mike Whitehead right there.
Who did I
Tyson?
fight after Johnathon Ivy?
You got Travis Fulton.
Okay.
Yeah, you got Fulton after that. And wait. Let me set this up. Fulton 15 fight win streak with 12 KOs. That's the Fulton you fought.
Yeah, and we know they went on or whatever, but you talk about 50 fights. This guy records how many?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dan Severn, we want to bypass him. You kind of dropped like you threw in your many digs on Severn, but I mean, damn, like how many fights does those guys record? So those are the guys that probably fought too much.
Did you like ever hang out with Travis Fulton?
Not hang out, no. Just at the fight. Just like I told you, I was doing it back then, right? I beat a guy and I tried to see him after the fight. And that was basically my interaction was I'd see him at weigh-ins, I'd see him in the cage, and then I'd try to say goodbye to him, wish him the best. And I did that twice with Travis Fulton, and that was my only real interaction with him.
He had some, like, him and Severn were real tight. It's just weird. Just weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's some bad backstories, guys. Stuff happens, and you get your F ups, just like WWE wrestling has. Some guys have had some bad stuff. It's just like it could have not been from fighting. It could just be like that's the person's personality and stuff that people do is messed up. But like maybe it's their sport. Maybe it's a whole bunch of things. But whatever. I guess we got to look at people that are doing the right thing, not just the wrong things. It's like there's bad people, there's bad people and good people in both. And I guess, yeah, my career, just you're going through my fight card, and there's all fucking ranges of people on this thing. And
I mean, Jonathan Ivy's got 100 fights.
Yeah, there's a guy that's like you. So it sounded like you spoke to him recently.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, and hopefully he's well.
Yeah, and even Jay Ellis, another Wisconsin alum. Jay Ellis has got like almost 200 fights. I mean, and like, all right, he's got a dozen wins. About 90% of those dozen wins fought in the UFC or Bellator. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, what did Jonathan tell you about the fight? Because he runs at me and tries to hit me with an overhand, and then immediately goes for the signature knee bar, his rolling knee bar. And then the fight ends pretty quick after that.
Yeah, he said he felt like a child. He's like, I literally, like, fear entered his body.
He was the guy that did that crazy, make the crowd though. He was like a wow factor. Whether he won or lost, that dude went out to make people go, what? Like some sort of crazy reaction. It's like, you got to appreciate that.
Yeah.
Goes to the entertainer. He's an entertainer.
Saved a lot of fight cards. That's for sure.
Well, hey, and that's some stuff that's been good. I didn't know that much. I can just tell you, like, hey, this guy went out. He wants to put on a show.
Yeah,
and I can always appreciate that.
M1 MFC, you're out in Russia. Nikola Valuev, the big 7-foot boxer, he was at this event. I think you got a picture with him.
Wow, really? You're right. It's been so long because I forgot when I met Shaquille O'Neal that took over as like the most like a eighth wonder of the world meeting Shaquille O'Neal. You know what I mean? Because it's like I met him in an airport and he stopped everything for me. Like I was like, holy shit, that's a big dude. And he shook my hand. I humbly hear all the time how big I am. But when I met Shaquille, I go, this is a big dude. This is what big is. So it's like I always remind her, like, yeah, there's always somebody bigger. And I met somebody like that. And he brought that out. The first person that really did it to me was in 2003. I met Shaquille like 2010, 11, something like that. In 2005, I met that Russian, and he too I was like, holy shit, it's a big dude. And I was just a brief meeting. I just seen him for a moment. I guess I kind of forgot about it. But what a massive human being. I don't even know, didn't really keep up with what happened to him.
Oh, dude, former world champion. Yeah, WBC world champion. Ibragim Magomedov, it's like that initial wave of the Russian attack. You get one of them in St. Petersburg in their hometown. Russian Red Devils, I mean, just a notorious team backed by mafia money, mostly money collectors and high-end wrestlers. Magomedov was legit.
Well, it was bogus because I signed a contract that said 1 10-minute round. There was no overtime. There wasn't supposed to be an overtime. But they wanted their guy to win that night. And I go sit on my stool and they go, there's an overtime. And I told Strasser, I go, this isn't, we kind of even says on it, every fight prior to this is 1 10-minute round. And they decided it was an overtime. And I said, I'm not fighting. And they said, he wins. But then they put it down that it's a TKO. I don't know how that could be a TKO. Watch the fight. You can see me on the stool. You can see me shake my head. There was no TKO. It was the end of the 10 minutes. And the thing is I think, truthfully, on the card, I won that 10 minutes easily. I beat the shit. I was on top of him the whole fight. I hit him. He threw a couple leg kicks, and he had a little bit of a flurry at the end, and that's why they wanted another round. And then I have this loss in my record that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, Russian crowd's a little rough.
You want to talk about a loss that I have to eat shit on? Carlos Barreto not soon after. Carlos hit me with a left field out of nowhere head kick, and it was the first, when I actually got knocked out, one of the last times too. And I have to try to keep it. I've been TKO'd after a couple times, but that was like, everybody thought what a great fight it was, because I feel like I was on my way to win the fight. And then Carlos just up and hits me with a fucking head kick. And that was a clean, I can't say shit. Like, that's just to lose a fight sometimes.
All right. So that happened July 31st, 2003. So let me kind of set the table on this. This is 2 years before the Ultimate Fighter Season 1, where MMA takes off. And Carlos Barreto is kind of at the end of his arguably being one of the greatest fighters in the heavyweight division at the time. Like that's fighting. You're in his hometown, Brazil, and he's arguably at this time top 5 in the world.
And we go to Brazil and do a main event in Natal, Brazil.
This is like did you split with Strasser at this point, or was it right after the Russia fight? Because I remember there being some pretty bad blood.
Yeah, the Russia fight basically could have been it, because things were like, it was just like the end of our relationship type period of time. And then I made one final hoorah that's the following year's summer, because that happened in 2022, right? November.
2002, November. Yeah. And then like June 23.
So 6 months later ish, a little more.
June 28th. Yeah.
So that following summer, I give it one more hoorah, fucking lose again. And then it was like, all right, I'm fucking out of here. Like, he didn't want to help me. He wasn't doing anything. And there was no point. So it was either I was going to quit fighting or I had to do something. That's where I was at.
I tell you, the one thing that I'll say about Strasser is, like, if he thought you were taking the easy road, or you may have like had a benefit, he did every single thing he could to kind of slow that. And the heavyweight division, like right now with your record, I have no doubt that the UFC probably called that gym several times, and he said no. I mean, your record is right there. I mean, it's been there for a while.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't treated that way. I was literally treated like a street bum that had no business being around. So I had to. It's what I needed. I needed to get the push to, like I said, my option was quit fighting or do something. And then I made a call and got Miletich on the phone and reached out, and he said, yeah, come here and try it out for a week. So the rest is history, right?
Well, July 31st, I mean, that's the Heat FC in Brazil. You took an entire year off. Was that to adjust to Miletich?
Well, I think for another like 6 months, I don't go out to Miletich until the summer of 2004. And then I end up getting a fight not too long after. Who's my next fight then, right?
So, July 16, 2004, Ultimate Throwdown in Des Moines, Matt Bear.
Yeah, I had come there and I started training for a few weeks. I was like kind of becoming a part of the team, and that was the first fight I took being there.
All right, talk about there seems to be like a rite of passage when you get to Miletich, and it's not easy. Like there's some horror stories and legendary tales being told of guys getting their ass kicked there.
Part of it. I made it happen. I watched it. You know,
what was your experience
going
like
on before I got there? And that's just the way the culture was. It was you had to be able to eat, or you're going to be eaten. And when you got eaten, you don't go on. You know what I mean? There's guys that come pay Pat on Monday. I don't know what it was like $250. They had to get their own hotel, find their own stuff. And that was just, they had to pay Pat just to come in. They had to figure everything else on their own. They'd come in to spar, and our sparring was just like, we just went. Even though it was just us with each other. But they got get thrown right into that. They were fresh meat. They got put into it, and we just fucking wail them. You know what I mean? These guys were just getting ended, knocked out. And this is any of the weight classes. The guys that get thrown in. And I have 100 guys through the year. Rough estimate, but it was like a lot all year long. 100 different people come like that. Different weight classes, all sorts of stuff. And they were gone by Wednesday. And then once in a while, there's a guy that comes and he stays the whole week. And then everybody in the room's like, yeah, come back. You know, there's just a select few. That was the weeding out process. It was brutal. And it's the way it had to be at that time.
Josh Neer made it that week, that hell week period.
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously a top fighter. That's why he was there.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty legendary. You start doing weekends with Duke Roufus as well, kickboxing.
Yeah, I would like to say, and I mean, you could argue it, but I remember really I was like the first MMA guy, you know, so to speak. And I would say I could tell you his number second it would be Stephan Bonner, because he did just in real short time period with, you know, I lived there, so I was able to go for periods of time. But Stephan Bonner, somebody I think he just kind of met up with, and he was one of the first people to really try to utilize what Duke was showing.
I would say not only were you the first, at the time there was I'm not going to say a rivalry, because that would mean people fought, but there was a disdain from Dave Strasser and his camp towards Duke. And, you know, I know there's like a history there. Duke testified trying to get MMA illegal and banned in Wisconsin. And obviously things have changed. But there was a history between Strasser and Duke. And you were one of the guys that kind of said, no, you know what, man? Let's kind of figure this out. He's got some
I didn't
tools.
know any of that you just said.
Oh, there's videos. Like there's videos of him on YouTube, like talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like out of that business, I guess, or what was going on between them at that period of time.
Yeah, I mean, you showed up over there. I'll tell you what, it kind of opened up the doors for O'Malley, Faircloth. Like you helped O'Malley and Faircloth get together with Strasser, which they formed an incredible bond. But then, like, you kind of also opened up that same door for Roufus with that same group of guys.
Huh.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Yeah, you were the first MMA guy at his gym. That's a fact. There's no arguing that. I mean, he did his events and stuff like that. But I tell you one changing moment in your life that I think where you kind of mentally leveled up. October 22nd, 2004, UFC 50. Robbie Lawler fights Evan Tanner. You are in attendance, and you have a conversation with Frank Mir there.
What is it again?
Frank Mir. It's when you guys were having a conversation, and Mir was pretty much just like, well, you know, I weighed 250 pounds. If I want to get you to the ground, I'm going to. And it was just kind of like where I was not there. But some of the people that were there were saying, it didn't sit well with Ben. Like, you know, like that little kind of conversation, like it didn't, like it pushed Ben. Like it was almost like a head game. That's what I was told.
And that's crazy because it's just like I was, you know, they might have seen it that way, but I'm under like, this is Frank Mir. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to be that way, but it's like it was. It's like, I respect people's accomplishments and respect what a top level fighter is. Like, he was definitely proved that that's the level he was at. So when I sit there and talk with guys at equal level, you know, there's a respect, I guess, where he was like, I don't know if we were really talking up to fight each other. Like, I didn't get that impression. Was that kind of how they felt?
No, they said it was just kind of like, well, you kind of right-sided your head like you belong here. You know, like
I didn't question that or have any doubt of that. So maybe that's why his words didn't matter to me.
Johnathon Wiezorek, another UFC veteran. Dude, Johnathon Wiezorek, he lives in Springfield, Illinois. He's the athletic director for like a junior college. He's completely stepped away from fighting. And I tell you what, man, he was tough. And you knocked him out. That was in the Euphoria show, October 15, 2004.
That was a good turning point. It was a bigger stage now. I'd say it was like a good event for trying to rise up to like to become the B level and like make you have like a big show feel. Yeah. At that point in time, I'd been on some decent sized shows. You know, I had an idea of what big was. And they tried to do something that felt big and important, and I gave them a good knockout.
Did you ever try out for the Ultimate Fighter?
I did not.
Did you ever get asked?
Nope.
In 2005, January 2005, your heavyweight training partners are the following people: Sam Hoger, Justin Eilers, Nate Schroeder, Mike Whitehead, Tim Sylvia.
I mean, yeah, all of them were. I think there was more, but yeah, they all were there.
That's a fucking crazy room.
And there was other guys that I sparred with for sure.
Yeah.
And some lighter weight, you know, we're going to talk about just the heavyweights. But some of the 205ers, you know, they're 230 pounds. Let's just, you know, you can say, oh, the numbers, but realistically, you're a heavyweight. We're all heavyweights right here, you know. Just you have to get down. You can get down to a 205 pound weight class too.
You fought Dan Christianson pre-fight. I was at this one. Tim Sylvia was taunting Dan prior to the fight. Like Sylvia was talking shit to Christianson. But it's kind of the game. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was nasty stuff. It was just, you know, it's the game. It's a fight game.
I don't know who was there that would remember Tim.
I was there. Yeah, I know I was there. Yeah.
Well, you see like Tim, you felt like that. Tim was like that towards Dan.
I think Tim was like that towards a lot of people. Yeah, at that time. Tim, I've seen Tim really nice, and I've seen Tim not so nice. I think that's how I would phrase it.
Yep. Two sides.
But I mean, he's a heavyweight champ. Everybody wants it. It's you're lonely at the top. I mean, you're alone at the top.
If you make it that way.
Yeah.
Alone, you have to be like, you don't have to be alone when you're not fighting though. Okay. When you're fighting, you want to be your accomplishment makes you number one, so you're alone. But what about, you can celebrate with anybody and be nice to people now?
Yeah.
You know, you thank the people that help you get to there, and they're going to be pushing you up to that spot. So it's a lot more to it than just, oh, me, I did it. No, like there's a whole group to us. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot to it, right? And it's like remembering the people that we watched help them.
Yeah, Dan Christianson, you lost by Kimura.
Third round.
Yeah, you were winning that fight too.
It was a brutal fight, man. Imagine if that fight happened in like a big UFC. Like, I think everybody would have been happy. People would have been going nuts.
Yeah.
And I was on the wrong end of it, you know, but it was a fucking battle.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was an awesome fight. Yeah, for sure. Henry Adams was Dan Christianson's manager, and he said that Dan was made to look bad on The Ultimate Fighter 2 as a result of this fight. Like his manager had hurt feelings. By the way, Dan was portrayed on The Ultimate Fighter 2. Yeah, I remember that. Tyson Green, ladies and gentlemen, this guy right here is our producer. Been hammering it lately. You and Andy from Scotland has been doing a really, really good job, man. Both of you guys. like our numbers on in stats on YouTube have been through the roof this last like probably about the last 35, 40 days. And this guy right here is a really big part of that. So Tyson, thank you, man.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun. You know what it is? It's like we're all dorks. We all like to get into the weeds of MMA. And you know what, dude? It's just like, man, we like to hang out doing dorky shit with each other. So and that's documenting MMA.
Absolutely.
So who's
Sorry,
this guy
my
you're
dog's
with right
kind of
now?
loving me.
Yeah.
This is Tinsley. This is my dog. She's kind of decided right now. Of course, now she wants to play right when I need to do something. So, but she'll be okay.
That's good. That's good. So Tyson, there's been a couple rule changes lately. 12-6 elbows in the UFC. Have you taken a look at that? I think it's supposed to go into effect next UFC event.
Yes, it's something that it's long overdue, in my opinion. I think it's something that should have been gotten rid of a whole long time ago.
You know, like where I'm in the stance of, I think the UFC has become more of like a sport rather than a fight. And this 12-6 elbow, as well as like the grounding rules, I think it's going to give the UFC a little bit of an edge, and that's something that they've been missing the last couple of years.
Agreed. I think it'll finally change some things up. It'll give a little more options as well. And also, I think they mentioned that they're changing the rule whenever they put their hands down, so they're not getting that bullshit position where guys are just putting their hands flat on the canvas and saying that it's a grounded fighter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, so there's no timing that anymore. I think the UFC's products have been a little stale. And I think this is going to change it, man. I think there's going to be some knockouts, some upsets, and it's going to bring a little wrinkle to the game.
Absolutely. Have you heard about Ariel leaving lately?
Ariel Helwani recently left his show. One, he gets great guests. Okay. So, and like in terms of popularity and stuff like that, he gets fantastic numbers. So like for me to sit here, we usually get a couple thousand downloads every episode, and to shoot up, it might look like sour grapes. So, but I will be honest. So Ariel leaving, everywhere he goes, he tends to have issues. Like when he went to the UFC, the first Abu Dhabi trip to the UFC, he'll never admit this, but I know it's true. The UFC paid for his airfare and his hotel room. So you're an independent journalist getting pretty much just kind of paid to go by the UFC, and kind of like how he got his job. God Saad is a regular on Joe Rogan's show. That's his uncle. And God Saad and Rogan have always had fantastic conversations. No matter where you're at on the Israel-Palestine like conversation, I kind of keep my nose out of it. God Saad and Joe Rogan, it's always a really, really good listen.
Absolutely.
And he jumped the line. Like some would argue that he jumped the line. Like Tyson, you and I have met each other in person. We have been to independent mixed martial arts events, like the grassroots, the lowest of levels. So when people kind of skip that step and they go right to, well, I'm on TV, I'm a talking head, either you've got like an incredible background already and you just kind of are transitioning from a different sport, or you've been kind of gifted.
Yeah.
And Ariel falls into that latter category. Like if you look at Jake Shields, Nick Thompson, pre-fight interviews, I could probably put a link in the bio if you want. Ariel asks Nick, so when I hear you're the Bodog champion, when are you defending that belt? And Nick Thompson will say, well, I mean, that organization closed like a year ago, so I'm always the champion, even when I lose. It's like little nuances like that.
Yeah.
Somebody can kind of get exposed, and obviously he's got a team of people working around him, but it seems like everywhere he goes, he has issues.
Yeah.
And and it's like, and if it's consistent, it's like, well, a guy that's been married 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Well, it couldn't be him. That's the problem.
There's a common denominator.
Dude, he's a fucking savage, dude. Look, he beats Dan Bobish and it goes on to the IFL.
Just his mentality is, I love his mentality. He's just a fighter through and through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's a heavyweight 50 Fight Club member. That's like not from a wrestling pedigree.
Yeah, true. Very true. They're hard to come by.
So
his record's insane.
Yeah. So I do, he's going to pick it up another night. We'll do a part 2 some other time. But Tyson Green, ladies and gentlemen, this guy right here, get some flowers, man. This guy right here really helps out the show. And like I said, wait a minute. Do what we can talk about?
Tell me.
Okay.
Did it happen?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you really like this show, there is an AI program that translates in real time, like actual real time, and kind of like does it does kind of like an accent and molds itself after what the person's saying. So I'll speak in English and then they reply in English, even though they're speaking a different language. Here's the issue. Tyson, what is it? Is it Wordly AI?
I believe so. Wordly AI, yes.
All right. It's $950 for 10 hours. So you can sit here and go, oh, well, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if I'd like to do it. Here's the thing. Ebenezer Braga, Eugenio Tadao, the Luta Libre godfather that fought Hutson on the beach, that fought Hoyler in the gym. So I got Braga, Tadao, and Pele Landy all have agreed to be interviewed. All 3 of them. That's 6 hours right there. We could probably squeeze in another 2. I just don't have $950.
I don't either. That's for sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I could trade services. You want to pet Tyson's dog for a little bit? You can go over to his house, pet his dog, Tinsley. But we can get like 3 or 4, like, dude, Ebenezer Braga. I mean, you and I and anybody that's listening up until this point might be the only ones excited, like, for something like that. But dude, Ebenezer Braga fought everybody.
Yes, sir.
Everybody.
Yes, sir.
So, I couldn't promise Marco Huas, but it would leave open 2 extra spots for Brazilians. But Braga, easy. Pele Landy, easy. Yeah. But anyway, like, share, subscribe. I got to take this, Tyson. This is Ben Rothwell calling again. I'll hit you, buddy. Do your thing.
Take care, man.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.